But we still had people doing emergency management with no real emergency management training except the professional development series from FEMA. Now that's excellent information. It gives you a great groundwork, and I think most of the emergency managers in my time in our county went through that with Centella Tucker, who was the main trainer for FEMA, and she went from city to city, and we all visited each other's EOCs and went through the multiple courses that were required to finally earn the capstone. And that was good education as well. But as we recognized the complexities of emergency management, the more we knew about it, the more we realized it was interprofessional. It wasn't something that a person did in a stovepipe. You needed to work with the urban planners so that as they planned your community, they didn't put things in harm's way. You needed to work with your building officials to be sure they understood the importance of the Uniform Building Code, and that they would also understand that because it was a national code, there were deficiencies in it. So for example, under the Uniform Building Code in those days, you could strap your water heater with plumber's tape. Well, that's not adequate in a real big shake. And so local emergency managers working with their building officials got local ordinances that made that stronger, that required band iron, that required a specific gauge of band iron, that required two straps, specific kinds of fasteners. And I go into this detail to show how by bringing professions together to work on a problem, we began to get better at what we were doing, but also more sophisticated. So a person coming out of the fire service as a lieutenant or a captain wouldn't necessarily know about the Uniform Building Code. They'd know about the fire code. But did they understand the UBC? Did they understand why their city wanted to amend the UBC? Could they stand up in front of city council in support of their building official when the real estate interests were on the other side saying, too much money, you know, why should we have to be responsible? If you want this done, you should pay for it, fighting us all the way. The emergency manager and the building official needed to be there strongly together explaining why it was an important mitigation measure. And without some training, some education, some background, a person really can't do that. So meanwhile, I was on the Seismic Safety Commission from 91 to 95, and we had the Ferndale earthquake and the Northridge earthquake, which taught us some new lessons about the importance of preparedness. Northridge was the first time that CERT really showed its value as various neighborhood groups came out and helped each other in areas that had become isolated because the roads were damaged. We also saw the first use of emergency managers' mutual aid, which showed that mutual aid isn't just about firemen and policemen. It's now 24 different professions that recognize the need to come to each other's aid during a disaster. And I think if you talk now to people that were working in LA and Santa Clarita and Ferndale about what EMA meant to them, they'll tell you that in some cases it was the difference between keeping the EOC open and not being able to keep the EOC open, because they had small staffs that were worried about their own families, and here we were able to do outreach. So you see how we've evolved on so many levels. And to know all of this, if you didn't live it, if you weren't born with it and watched it grow, the only way you can do that is go to school. You're not going to absorb it through the environment.